I remember when Battlefield 1942 first launched. I owned a PC back then. I played it on PC. I loved it for the immersion, the realism, the scope, the scale. It was the first time any of us had seen a game where you had so many players and vehicles all in the same environment competing against one another in an online game. I also remember the first time I played Call of Duty. It was a World War II game back then. I remember jumping as a paratrooper behind enemy lines the day prior to D-Day and clearing across the open farm fields and getting in this rural French combat. Those were days when Call of Duty and Battlefield were games to be proud of, and rightly or wrongly, since then, both of those genres have changed tremendously and both remain incredibly popular among all mainstream gamers. They get the most searches, they have the most players, they've generated the most money. Call of Duty delivers a AAA title year after year after year, and it is a reskinned version of the exact same game every single year. Battlefield introduces a little bit more ingenuity, but they do it on an every other year basis with no real meaningful changes in the style of game year after year. But there is a better option, and we're going to talk about them right now. Have you heard of these games? Squad, Rising Storm 2 Vietnam, Insurgency Sandstorm, Postscriptum, Hell Let Loose, Ready or Not. Each of these games is a major tactical shooter that is already released or is about to be released. 2019 is finally, thank God, the year of the tactical shooter. And it's the first time that gamers from across platforms are going to have the opportunity to look at this genre with sincerity and consider a real alternative to the same tired AAA titles that they have been chasing year after year after year. Let's talk a little bit why tactical shooters are so much fun and why these titles specifically stand out in an otherwise crowded landscape of the same old same. Tactical shooters are special because they provide a level of immersion that is impossible to achieve in any other game. In Call of Duty or Battlefield, you are rewarded for being twitchy, for having quick reflexes, for quickly identifying a target and then engaging it rapidly. He who can shoot with the most accuracy or has the best reflexes or memorizes the map most effectively is going to win a fight time and again. Tactical shooters, on the other hand, still award technical perfection if you can shoot. However, they also require the player to think and fight with their mind. The player must be able to look at the terrain, look at their potential adversary, make a series of tactical decisions that will result in them being successful. No longer is it good enough just to launch a game, play it for 1,000,000 hours, and be faster than the next guy. You have to be fast, and you also have to be good. Additionally, these games are immersive. Gone are the days when games like Arma or Operation Flashpoint required you to walk for 2 hours before you make enemy contact. Finally, titles like Insurgency Sandstorm, Squad, Rising Storm 2 Vietnam, and Postscriptum have introduced a tactical shooter game where you're making contact with the enemy more frequently, but it is still a meaningful, high-pressure, highly immersive experience. What I mean by that is the maps are appropriately sized so that as you walk across the terrain, yes, there will be a period of a lull. However, that period of a lull is going to be absolutely shattered while you're moving through open terrain, and then out of nowhere, a V-bed lands in the middle of your formation, or a machine gun burst rips across the pasture. Those rounds are lethal, the enemy contact is decisive, and every single time something like that happens, it's going to force you to plow your head into the digital dirt, get down, and return fire or be killed where you stand. The punishment or the repercussions for not playing in a way that is conducive to success in this sort of environment is you get eliminated rapidly. You have to be good. You have to be able to play aggressively. You have to be able to play with a member of a team. And finally, we exist in a time and in an age where everyone who has a computer, who has a console, also has a means to communicate with their voice over that platform. It is no longer rare for players to have microphones, and in games like this, voice communication is imperative. In fact, most of these games have structures built into them whereby someone actually takes a leadership role, and most of the people on the team are actually coordinating and working towards the same goal so that they can actually achieve victory in a meaningful team-based environment. These games are outstanding. The performance requirements for each of these games are going down year over year, and technology is getting cheaper and it's becoming more readily available, and for the first time, Call of Duty and Battlefield are not your only options. I beg you, I plead you, if you have not played any of these games, if you haven't taken tactical shooters seriously, if you haven't looked at the opportunity to stray away from the tired little games that you've been playing since you were 10 years old, please consider any one of these titles. Links to each one of them are in the description. Listen guys, this video was not for my subscribers. You guys have been evangelized. I'm talking to the people that haven't joined this community yet, so if you needed to hear this today, then welcome. We're so glad to have you. And if you're one of my subscribers who didn't need to hear this, but you were laughing the entire time and agreeing with me, then share it with someone who does need to hear it, and I will see you on the battlefield.